Weather conditions are suspect. The course is dry, but overhead there are some very heavy rain clouds. On the standard tyre, of course. They all use the same type of Dunlop tyre in this championship, which has got a wet weather tread. But if the conditions change, as up into pole position, having got away last of all for the warm-up lap, John Brolly Booth, who must be the favourite for this event, he makes umbrellas for a living, comes from Penistone. He's the Alton Park champion this year, second in the P&O championship. Pole position here. Second, Chris Hall in the J-Man. There's only one of those cars in this race. Chris ever improving. Third in the championship in a one-off car, and he's likely to do well in this race too. That's Chris Cresswell, third on the grid. Like many of the people in this race, started his career in karts. He's the brother of Rob Cresswell, for whose team he drives. Comes from Brighton, driving a Ray, one of the many drivers in this event who are driving unusual cars. And in another unusual car, a Quest, fourth on the grid, that's 20-year-old John Herbert, ex-kart driver, and a very good one too. He was in the British team in 1983, and he had an excellent Formula Ford festival here a few weeks ago. And that is the 1984 champion of brands, #1, Chris Ringrose, a dentist from Harrow who drives a Ray. He's had 4 wins, 6 second places, 3 third places, all of them in a 1980 car, and that's got to prove something. Cresswell in the white Ray, with Chris Hall slotting into second position in the J-Man. Brolly Booth, who's called Brolly Booth because there's another John Booth who's a butcher, and those descriptions are used to prevent confusion. But now it is Chris Cresswell, fourth in the championship, being chased by Chris Hall, who is in third place in the championship. And by the way, the second place man in the championship, Glenn Board, is not competing. So there's a big battle on between Chris Hall and Chris Cresswell to see if they can take the second place in the championship away from Glenn Board. And the winner of the championship, Chris Ringrose, cannot be beaten. And this is a 10-lap race. They come out of the Clark Curve corner onto the top straight, the Brabham straight, and it's Cresswell leading. #2, Cresswell, who's driving a Ray. In second position behind him is Chris Hall. Down to fourth position has gone Brolly Booth, and Chris Ringrose, who is the champion, is in third position. #1, Chris Ringrose has sprinted through from a third-rank position, and off has gone Mike Brown in the Ray, and Chris Ringrose looks as though he's on his way to win this round.
Yes, Murray, the conditions this morning, there Ringrose going for second place with Chris Hall, trying to go around the outside at 30s. It's not on, but the practice this morning was very wet and greasy, of course, so the grid was a bit of a upside-down grid, but it certainly looks like Ringrose is the man that's going best in the dry. The champion, there he is, in third now. He's past poleman Booth, and he's looking like the menacing man.
And he's challenging Chris Hall in the unique J-Man. That's the red car, the man from Sutton who works for a motorcycle dispatch organisation, and he's still holding that second position. The car designed and built by Mike James and Tony Monday, and from those two men, the name of the car, J-Man, has come. And Chris Hall, then, 30 years old, comes from Sutton, chasing the race leader, #2, Chris Cresswell, and we are now on lap 3 in this 10-lap race. There's the battle for the lead. #2, Cresswell leads. In second position is Hall. In third position, #1, Chris Ringrose, and Hall going through and taking Cresswell, and Ringrose taking Cresswell, or trying to, and off goes Ringrose, and off with Ringrose goes Brolly Booth. So there was a contact there. Brolly Booth coming up from his fourth position and trying to take Ringrose. They both spin off, and now, just to compound everybody's problems, not the least of which I include John Brolly Booth, it is starting to rain with now Chris Hall, the man from Sutton, 4 years racing experience, all of it in Formula Ford, and he's had a good year this year. He's won 2 events this year. He's taken pole positions, he's taken fastest laps. He had a very good drive in the Formula Ford Festival, and now on lap 4 he's leading with up into second position Len Greeny, who is 5th in the championship. And look for car number 15, Len Greeny. There he is, the second of these 2 cars. They're coming out now. There is Chris Cresswell in second place. Here is the leader coming towards us in the maroon car, number 25, Chris Hall, crossing the line. 4 laps completed, 6 laps to go. And now we've got Chris Hall and Chris Cresswell, who are battling for 3rd position in the championship, respectively 1st and 2nd in the race, and it can hardly be better from our point of view as they come up to try and take Rod Vickery in the Van Diemen with its Scholar engine, and Chris Hall does it as he goes into the left-hander at Graham Hill. And Chris Cresswell in second place has really got a race on his hands.
Yes, certainly. And Eddie Irvine there, the Irishman, coming up behind in the Mondial from Ireland. A great shame there that we lost Booth and Ringrose in that incident. It was rather odd. Cresswell suddenly slowed coming out of Kidway. They all arrived at this corner clearways together, and there was a touch, and round went Ringrose and Booth. But certainly now here in the background we have Herbert and Irvine dicing very hard for 3rd place and slowly closing on the leader there, Hall, and the following Cresswell. Hall sliding, it's getting very greasy, Murray.
And the interesting thing that Tiff's just said is that number 14, John Herbert, the ex-kart driver, member of the British team last year, there he is, has forced his way up into 3rd place on this, the 6th lap. So it's Chris Hall still leading. It's Chris Ringrose still in 2nd place. It's John Herbert now. There's the leader in the white car, number 2, Chris Cresswell. There, number 14 in 3rd position is John Herbert, 20 years old, and he's driving a Quest with an Auriga tuned Ford engine. And behind Herbert in 4th position, it's Ed Irvine in a Mondial. So we've got a lovely spread of cars. A J-Man is leading across the line. Chris Hall at the wheel to complete 6 laps. In second position, it is the Ray car. In 3rd position, it's now Ed Irvine's come up into 3rd position in the Mondial. And down to 4th position has gone John Herbert. That's number 14 in the Quest. So there's 4 different makes of car in the first 4 places, and that's a very healthy situation indeed.
Yes, Barry, it's certainly some racing. Herbert there we see dropping away now with some problem. He looks healthy enough there, but he's certainly dropped back a long way from Irvine. Irvine, who's closing up on, of course, it's Cresswell in 2nd place, and there Irvine in the Mondial closing on the 2 leaders.
Very pretty motor car. This car made in Northern Ireland. There's Ed Irvine. And there's Brolly Booth in the pits, the man who is in pole position, the man who won the Oulton Park Championship this year. Off goes number 17, Gary Ailes in the Reynard, rejoins the circuit. It's getting quite slippy now because that burst of rain we had, a very short burst, has dampened the circuit, and it's really catching him out. That's Chris Hall nearly losing it in the lead as he comes out of Druids. And now he is on his 8th lap in this 10-lap race, right up behind him. Number 2, Chris Ringrose, and then in 3rd position now, Ed Irvine. So it's the J-Man leading, it's the Ray 2nd, it's a Mondial 3rd.
Of course, that's Cresswell, Murray, in the Ray in 2nd place. That's the new Ray, Ringrose in the older Ray from last year, the champion, who was knocked out of the race by Booth. I think he got away from the initial shunt but had problems. But here, Cresswell challenging hard for the lead, and Irvine waiting for a slip by either of the 2 leaders. Cresswell looking for the inside.
Yes, Cresswell, Chris Cresswell, son of brother of Rob, for whose team he drives. And he and Chris Hall and Irvine going through and taking 2nd position, nearly pushing Chris Cresswell off the circuit, but he held his line, and Cresswell had to move over. Off spins yet another Paul Newman, not the film star, although he does race. And now still the battle for the lead continues, and Chris Hall has pulled out a bit of an advantage as he goes into Surtees, but not very much of one, as number 14 there, and that's John Herbert, and he is now slipping down the field in 5th position. They're going through now shortly to start the last lap. Starting the last lap, over the line, the leader, number 25, Chris Hall. Then in 2nd position, it's Ed Irvine, the 2 maroon cars, 1st and 2nd. In 3rd place, it's Cresswell, and it is certainly going to be a 2nd place in the championship for number 25, Chris Hall, if he finishes where he is now, because he will get 20 points for winning this race, which would give him 161 points and make him a strong 2nd.
Yes, I thought this race was over, but Irvine's closing the last corner now, going into Clearways. Irvine's last chance, but Hall, he's got his visor up, Murray, because of the rain and the mist.
Hall is going to win the race and finish 2nd in the championship in the J-Man. A wonderful finish for him, but Ed Irvine's coming right up, and he goes over the line absolutely alongside. Now, I honestly can't tell you without looking again very carefully at whether it was Irvine's race in the end or whether it was Chris Hall's, one or the other. Let's look again then as they come up to the line with Chris Hall nearest the camera as he goes up towards the checkered flag, and Irvine on his inside, and as they go across the line now you can see that it's Chris Hall who just got there first, with Ed Irvine the closest 2nd I think I've ever seen, and in 3rd place Chris Cresswell. The J-Man, the man from Sutton, has got the best drive in his 4 years experience in winning here today.
There you see confirmation of it. Chris Hall the winner. Eddie Irvine incidentally had the fastest lap as well. Cresswell was 3rd.